Good evening, St. Louis, and welcome into the STL City Central postgame on STL Sports Central, brought to you by Hot Shots Sports Bar and Grill. All the games, all the time. Check out your closest location at hotshotsnet.com. And of course, our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. St. Louis City SC fall in David Critchley's second game as caretaker manager. 2-1. They score the first goal of the game early in the second half by Akil Watson, then two unanswered by the Portland Timbers, which means another away loss, something we're all too familiar watching St. Louis City over these last three seasons. I'm Matthew Rocchio. That's Will Bratton. And we got about 15, 20 minutes for you today to talk about another City loss. Your opening thoughts on what we saw this afternoon into evening, Will Bratton.
I think City actually played one of their better matches tonight in terms of their overall play. But when you blow opportunities, as Celio Pompeo has said in his post-match pressers in previous weeks, the football will punish you. And it punished St. Louis tonight with a beautiful goal that, I mean, not a lot can be done when a world-class goal is scored on you, like Antony's first goal. But the second goal was certainly preventable. And there were a few other opportunities that Portland had that were definitely preventable. But St. Louis had, 2.41 XG on 5 big chances. They missed 4 of those big chances. And that just can't happen if you want to win matches at the end of the day, especially on the road. When you get those chances, you have to take them every single time.
How are we balancing the poor defense at the end on set pieces, the lack of finishing, with the fact that it is one of the best creation games of the season? In fact, with a 2.41 XG today from St. Louis City, off the top of my head now, because I moved the stats away from when I had them in front of me just a few minutes ago. I think 2.41, yeah, that's the highest XG of the season. Previously, it was 2.1 against Columbus and 2.0 even against the Rapids and the Galaxy in the first 2 of the 3 games of the season. So, I mean, how do we balance the mistakes with the fact that objectively things are getting better from an offensive creation standpoint, which was obviously the biggest problem under Olaf Melberg?
Yeah, I think you have to take the positives going forward and just understand that now you have to build on that, and you have to beat the LA Galaxy at home next weekend. And if you can do that, then I think you're still on pace. But if you can't do that, then this match was a waste because, like you said, this was a good progression. We saw good progressive passing and possession sequences with a purpose, like David Critchley has spoken about. We saw some young guys getting involved. Jaden Reid had a pretty solid match at left back. Joey Zielinski had a fantastic performance off the bench at right back. And Tomas Totland had a pretty solid match at right back. So, the right back position being very vulnerable in the past seems to be a little bit resolved. So that's very nice. Left back situation, obviously having Horn out and about to lose him permanently is unfortunate. But with Jay Reid playing well, these are things you can continue to build on. What we do need to see more out of is Marcel Hartl and Joao Klaus. I think Joao Klaus actually had a very fine match in terms of his overall play, but you got to finish those chances. Had he done the same thing, but not maybe generated, like maybe he didn't get those goal scoring chances, but he was just creating them for the rest of the team, and he didn't score any goals, I'd be fine with it. But because he did get those chances and he didn't punish them, that's the part that hurts for me. So you need to get more out of your 2 DPs there. Marcel Hartl picked up a 7.2 SofaScore rating, and I honestly think that was a little generous. I don't think he's played very well lately, and I think he's, to be clear, I think he's the best player really on this team, outside of maybe a fully weekend fit every single week 90-minute Edouard Leuven. But Marcel Hartl's, you got to get more out of him in all of these matches. So that's my biggest kind of balance there, is you got to take the positives forward, but you also have to understand that there are limiting factors here that kept you from winning a match where honestly you were the better team for the majority of the match. So now you have to kind of course correct and get the win at home, and then see if you can start winning matches on the road again with a little bit of momentum. So
eggplant emoji. How does this squad shake off their identity? Late blunders that turn wins into draws and draws into losses. I think to your point, it's a mental issue late in games. They're making mental mistakes. Taylor Twellman points out that it didn't look like Jean De Silva or Thomas Ostrak really understood what their positioning needed to be on that set piece goal by Ashala, and now you're walking away with 0 points instead of 1. And so that's that's a point to eggplant emojis chat as well. And don't forget, get into the chat. Aaron Ed, gentlemen, this is brutal. They can't finish, can't cover late. Silva has to go. Listen, the finishing is about that. We'll not get into a guy who's been here for 2 months. We'll throw that out there for what it is. But the finishing is a problem. And I just saw the stat they threw up there. The XG for St. Louis this year is up to 23 at this point, and they've scored 14 goals. So there is a level. The finishing isn't good enough, and the largest perpetrator has been Simon Bescher this year. He had another game today where he missed 2 solid chances. Marcel Hartl, a really tough game from him. To your point, João Klaus, a tough game from him as well. No one was finishing well today at all. And yeah, that's going to be a huge problem. If you can just continue to create, eventually things are going to go your way, hence the Watts goal. But if you don't get some kind of clinical finishing, if you can't at some point get away with finishing a 0.5 XG attempt, which they just haven't this year, then it's going to be hard to win. So as much as we've given credit to players like Klaus for their non-finishing aspects of their game, the fact of the matter is the finishing for this team is holding them back from getting results, bottom line.
Yeah, no, I mean, this has been a common theme with this team. Last year too, it was just 2023 was the outlier where City were severely overperforming and just scoring a lot of goals that maybe they otherwise wouldn't have. And I mean, this team we've seen, time after time, they just miss sitters. And it's not any one player doing it every single time. I mean, it is numerous players on this team who have been bitten by this bug, some virus infecting this team, and they just can't score the easy ones. They just simply cannot. João Klaus can literally win a header and assist himself somehow and then score a goal that he has no business scoring, albeit a goalkeeping mistake. But still, he can score the hard one, but then he gets, 2 chances basically from the PK spot uncontested and can't score either of them in this match. So it's just those little moments.
To your point, there are only 2 players right now on City's roster who are on City's roster right now who are scoring even or better than their expected goals on target. Marcel Hartl has 2 goals with a 4 XG total this year. Klaus, 2 goals to 3.4. Toyshirt exactly even, 3-3. Bescher has 1 goal on 2.9 XGOT. That's what I've been talking about, one of the worst in the entire league. Akil Watts even had 1.5, and that includes his goal today. The only players who are even are Cedric Toyshirt, 3-3, and then Edward Leuven, who has 2 goals on 1.3 XGOT. So that's 2 players who are finishing.
Toyshirt's is inflated too by his lucky fluke deflection goal that adds to his total. So I think it's a very good point that you bring up.
We have Ryan Fraley here. Best half of the year was the first half, and we couldn't score. And yeah, that's the point. With that Hartl one,
best half on the road, I'd say.
Yeah,
best half on the road, because I think the Colorado match at home, opening match of the season, was really good stuff. But yeah, best half of the year on the road, I'd say. And you just got to score. It's so hard to take much else away from this match besides when you don't score your big chances, you get 5 of them within 60 minutes and you only score 1. You're not going to win the game most of the time.
Ryan Fraley, the set piece execution infuriates me. I think that's a fair point. I haven't broken down the numbers exactly, but if you go through just off the top of my head the last time I looked at it, and you can because there's some of these sites that break down XG into open play, set play, and non-penalty XG and all this stuff like that. Their set piece XG this year is a minute fraction of what it was in obviously in 2023, and obviously last year wasn't as good. It wasn't as much of an outlier for the set piece winning, and even compared to last year, their set piece XG is pretty low this season. So I think that's a fair point. Part of that has been not having Edward Leuven, but even when they get good deliveries, you maybe the best delivery from Hartl of the season on a free kick, and Baum's header just flies wide. The clinical aspect of the finishing from every aspect of the team it's not there, and they are not often going to be able to get 3 XG in a game.
Yeah, no. I mean, XG it's always on the low side, you know. So it's really hard. I mean, building up even more than two means you had a pretty strong attacking performance outside of, yeah, especially non-penalty XG. So Rock's absolutely right. I mean, you just got to score those moments. I
The
can't get it
Hartle
out of my head.
stuff, the Hartle stuff is really disappointing me because if we're just gonna accept the fact that they're not a very good finishing team, then the answer is how can they get more scores? Well, they can create a little bit more, and right now they're not getting a lot of creation from, to your point, one of their best players in Marcel Hartle. The fact that they were able to create almost 3 xG in a match where Hartle wasn't that effective and Edward Leuven wasn't there, that is pretty impressive. I
Very,
mean,
very hopeful
that's
sign.
extremely unexpected. I'm not trying to just gild the lily here and just come up with stuff to talk about in a loss. It's just you don't expect that to happen. You don't expect Akil Watts to have a game where he has 3 chances created. Marcel Hartle came on late, but still, it was a solid game from Watson Morales, and I thought that was one of the biggest questions coming in was what was going to happen in the midfield, and they were consistently good. They were not the problem. There's plenty to criticize, and I'm kind of shocked the midfield wasn't going to be one of them. That's a feather in the cap for the depth for this midfield. I'm wondering why Ostrak wasn't a starter, but then he makes a defensive mistake like that on a set piece, and maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, and I think JGR kind of lost his man. I think Silva and Ostrak both lost their man on that set piece goal, the second one. I just don't think it was very well defended at all. And I will say it's always hard for substitutes to defend set pieces into a match. It's always hard. Always.
Yeah, you got to communicate.
Right, and that's on Kessler and Berkey because they should be. I mean, there should be no, you shouldn't be able to hear anything except them yelling at the guys who subbed onto the pitch about what they're supposed to be doing. And so I think that's on them a little bit. Obviously, inevitably, it's on the players who lost their men, but the communication's got to be there. And I think this is the type of thing that, by the way, we might take a look at on Boots on the Ground, which is our new midweek show that Rock and I are doing every single week after midweek training. We're breaking down plays, John Boy Media style, getting into the nitty gritty, breaking everything down, all the things you didn't see and the tactics that you didn't notice. We're going to have it broken down for you. And we're taking a look into all sorts of other stuff, such as the summer transfer window and what's going to happen with that, who's going to stay, who's going to leave, who's going to get maybe potential prospective players we could purchase, and all sorts of stuff like that. So a little bit of a plug here, but definitely check that out in the midweek. The first episode from this past week has already dropped as well. So if you want to check that out and see what's in store for the coming weeks, definitely check that out as well here on STL Sports Central.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to have a lot from this game considering some of the defensive breakdowns. And let's talk about one of the defensive breakdowns because one of the most consistent things that we were getting from the from the game broadcast was a pretty stark criticism, pretty heavy criticism on the defensive play of the first goal from St. Louis City SC. Your thoughts on, it was an incredible play by Anthony, but a lot of criticism from Tots for not following him on that one. Taylor Twellman was very critical of Henry Kessler for not jumping up and letting Anthony have that space and take that shot. What were your thoughts on that first goal from St. Louis City SC?
Yeah, I think Tots, it's an outstanding move. I don't think there's a lot Tots can do. And I think he's so wide in that situation. And Tots should expect that somebody's going to cover. I think fouling him there and taking a yellow on a player that wide on the pitch when you have numbers behind the ball is stupid. I don't think he should have fouled there. I think it was the right move by Tots. And unfortunately, he was the victim of just an absolutely stunning overhead flick to himself by Anthony. And then with Kessler, I think Kessler gave him too much room to breathe. Kessler kind of backed himself up a little too far. Obviously, you want to step to your man and then backtrack and contain. That's how you defend one-on-one. And Kessler had an absolute masterful example of this at a different point in the match. So obviously, we know that he knows how to do it. He's one of the best defenders in the league right now, probably the best defender in the league right now. The thing for me is I just wanted to see him stay a little tighter to Anthony there because he's such a quick and crafty player, and he's going to try and get that shot off most of the time. He's a very confident player. He's going to want to shoot that. So I want to see Kess stay a little tighter there. If anything, it just eliminates that near post option for shooting for Anthony so that Berkey can cheat towards Berkey's left side towards that far post and maybe has a better chance to make a save on that shot. So it definitely not perfect defending from Kessler. I don't really think Totland is very at fault when a move like that is put on. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely argue a midfielder should have slid in as well. I'd have to take a look at it again on replay and see, the spatial situation there to decide if a midfielder should have gotten involved. But my initial reaction is it was just a world-class goal, and Kessler maybe could have done a little better. But, I mean, it's a really tough one to defend there.
Yeah, and see, my thing is that it's such an incredible goal by Anthony, and I don't know if I want.
Probably going to be the goal of the week.
Yeah, it's going to be the
whatever
goal
with MLS.
But and that's why I don't know if I completely agree with criticizing Kessler for just trying to corral the play, which he was doing because Tots got pantsed on it. It was a 0.03. It was a 3% chance on the shot from Anthony. Are we really going to blame the defender for corralling it and trying not to step up and then get beat and allowing a 70% chance on goal? I understand we're giving him, you have Aaron Ed. What was Kessler doing on that play? Kess gave him whatever he wanted. Harder for me to blame Kess. Anthony's maybe one of 5 guys in the league that can do that, but Tots could have done more to cut off the play in the first place. He got absolutely just burned there. I mean, Kess had no one else to cover there. That's my thing. It's just if he steps up and Anthony, puts a move on him, are we really going to be sitting here and saying, you know what, that's a great move by Anthony, you just got to tip your cap to the offensive player on that one? Or are we doing what we're doing now and saying, Kessler, he's got to be aware that that's such a, he just pantsed your right back and you think you can step up and take him one-on-one in the box? No, you got to take away his space, help your goalie out, take away any angles. And I think that's what Kessler's trying to do. I think this is a damned if you do, damned if you don't moment for Henry Kessler. And I think we're being a little bit too hard on him.
Well, I mean, I agree, but what I said wasn't that he should have stepped and tried to make a tackle, because you're right, that would not have been right. I just said he should have stayed a little tighter to him. I think he gave him too much room to breathe. He does not need to be stepping in. You're absolutely right. If he steps that ball and gets burnt, I mean, it's wraps. You don't have a cover situation there. Your right back's out of position because he just got burnt. You can't let him around you there. But I think Kessler should have stayed a little tighter to him is all I'm saying. A little less space between him and Anthony there.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, and that's the tricky part with Kessler. I know we're putting him through. Samuel Howe is asking if Portland's a good team. Yeah, they're a good team. They're top half of the Western Conference. They're a damn solid team, and you played them extremely well. You created consistently without 2 of your best players, one of them who wasn't in the game, one of them who didn't make a huge impact of the game. You simply couldn't finish, and in the grand scheme of things, I think people are now want to shift the conversation from was the coach the problem to is this roster good enough? And now that's where we're at in the conversation cycle all over again.
Yeah, and right back where we started again, which is you're missing a bunch of key components. So can you judge the roster yet? Or should you just blow up the whole roster, sell everybody, and restart because no one is able to play consistently for this team? Which is obviously I'm being dramatic and obnoxious on purpose because
all right. So you heard it right there. Will's blowing it up. All right, Will, how are you blowing it up? Where are you sending all these players? Who are you bringing in? Break it all down for us.
Well, I'm not really. I'm not. I mean, I'm getting Nielsen and Alm out of here and getting whatever money we can for them and filling those roster slots. And I'm giving Makai Joyner a homegrown contract for 3 years, and then I'm figuring it out from there. I don't think selling Klaus in the summer makes much sense. I think that should be an off-season decision. So, yeah, that's kind of where you're at. You have the opportunity to add a DP this summer as well, potentially, as well as multiple U22s on high salaries. So the opportunity is more than there without trying to buy out Klaus or do anything drastic like that. So
do you have a positional preference on those U22s or the DP for that matter?
Yeah, center back U22. I think you have a perfect pairing in Kessler and Baumgartel. I think your CB3 per se, like your first center back available if one of them's injured, should be a U22 perspective, player who could be starting in MLS potentially. And then I want to see a DP or a U22 right winger to replace Rasmus Alm and really just get anything going on that right-hand side where City have done almost nothing this whole season. So those are priorities 1 and 2. And then I'm shopping for maybe a left fullback. If you don't think Jay Reid's the number one option going forward, then you need to have somebody over him. So that's a decision that has to be made. And
I'm okay with just rolling with some Jay Reid. I thought he had that bad turnover in a moment where Zelensky had to save his ass. And, you don't like to see those kind of lazy turnovers in the midfield by a young player. He wasn't dominant to any point, but 5 total tackles, 2 interceptions, 4 clearances. You won more than half his duels, one half of the aerial duels. I thought Jay Reid was pretty solid considering what we've seen from him in just 2 games now, considering he played 90 minutes on Wednesday. Impressed might not be the perfect description for it, but I'm okay with going forward in the future with the idea that Jay Reid is the future at your left back spot.
That's fine with me then. So then you need to just fill more roster slots elsewhere. If you're chopping off Nielsen right in the summer, I fully, by the way, expect Rasmus Alm and Joachim Nielsen to leave this summer. I think Lutz will get them off of this roster no matter what, while he has the opportunity to in the summer window. So the question is really who fills that void. With Nielsen leaving, he's not an international player. He has his green card. So you don't get an international slot back, but you do get a ton of salary relief because he's a TAM player. So you have the opportunity now to sign, a Cedric Toyshirt salary level player. And so that could be your right winger if you want to fill that spot there, or maybe you want to just directly replace center back with that type of salary. It's completely up to Lutz. If I were him, I would be trusting Kessler and Baumgartel as your pairing going forward, and I wouldn't try to upgrade at center back right now. I think Baumgartel and Kessler are one of the better pairings in the league, in all honesty. So I would be looking at a fullback. I would be looking at a right winger, and I'd be looking at depth in the midfield also, because don't forget there's supplemental slots open. And MLS has weird rules. You can't just pay everybody whatever millions and millions of dollars. There's rules to this. So these supplemental players also need to be filled because this team does lack depth in some areas, as we see when players are injured and it gets all messed up, players out of position. So he'll have his hands full this summer, but I have faith. I have a lot of confidence in this summer window.
While we're talking about some young players, Brendan Msurley, as Aaron Ed likes to call him, McScorley, could have been the hero. What a sad night. I don't know if we want to say sad night. I thought it was a pretty solid game from Brendan McSorley. The most minutes he's played in an MLS game in his second ever appearance. Drew 3 fouls, won half his duels, had a solid game, including had a successful dribble attempt as well, beating a Portland defender. Yeah, he wasn't dominant, but considering, again, second ever MLS appearance, 26 minutes after only playing 9 last season, solid little night for Brendan McSorley. I like seeing those kind of things.
Yeah, and the thing for me that I loved the most with him was he was just lightning quick, just running around like a psycho out there. And that's what you need. You need energy off the bench. And young players that are fighting for minutes in a contract, they're going to give you that energy. He wanted to be out there. He wanted to make the most of that opportunity because he only gets one more of those this season. He can only sub onto the pitch one more time in all of 2025, should he even get called up. So every single chance he gets, he has to make the most of that opportunity, whether it's going to be City that gives him a contract or another team that wants to pick him up. So you love to see that from the young players. Joey Zelensky, kind of a similar story. Of course, he has a senior roster contract, but he came out there and was quick, had that heroic play on the Jay Reid mishap, and I thought he had a solid match. So, you love to see the younger players getting involved. And again, that's a positive takeaway to take from this match going forward.
Let's talk about our good friends over at DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Promo code STL Sports with our favorites over at the DraftKings Pick 6. It's the middle of the season, and whether we're talking about soccer, basketball, baseball, you're locked in right now to every goal, every basket, every pass, every run. And when you're locked in like that, the best thing to do is to take your knowledge and go win with our friends over at DraftKings and their Pick 6 app. You just select 2 players from opposing teams, at least 2 players. You can put it up to 6, and you're just going to select more or less on their stats. Also, right now, for all our people who join, you're going to play $5. You're going to get $50. That means 10 bonus plays every new player who joins with our promo code STL Sports. Play $5, get $50. You can go with the Cardinals game. You can get in on the NBA game that is live right now as OKC is beating up on the Pacers. You can even get in on games tomorrow. That's the best part about DraftKings and their Pick 6 app. All the ways for you to play with DraftKings Pick 6. Again, check them out. Promo code STL Sports. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Just a few minutes left here on our City Central post game as the STL Battlehawks, a very disappointing loss in the XFL Conference Championship game, getting doubled up by the DC Defenders at home as they try to bring professional football championship back here to St. Louis. So we'll be kicking it over to the Battlehawks Central post game in just a few moments, but I want to get some last thoughts here because our chat, always loyal, always killing it. Silvio Martinez, did Matt just wake up from a nap? Holy hair. No, see, this is what happens every time City misses a shot. This is the reaction. Oh, what? It's a sitter, Klaus. Marcel, what are we doing? And so then, obviously, we get this. And so even after the pre-show, this is what we're left with. So that's how we get.
What was that again? The pre-show. What was that?
The pre-show, Sean Hunter. And Silvio Martinez also says, bring back the Steamers. Shout out Steamers for the championship in the 90s. Shout out the St. Louis Ambush, who are trying to bring back Indoor Soccer Championship to St. Louis City. Thank you very much. And also shout out to our friends at Hot Shots Sports Bar and Grill. Just celebrated 35 incredible years of bringing food and fun to St. Louis. And of course, if you're in St. Louis, my thing right now is pointing out, guys, go to hotshotsnet.com. If you're in St. Louis, you are 15 minutes away from the best time in St. Louis, from the best food, the best atmosphere, the best beverages. Get out right now to hotshotsnet.com. The best part is when St. Louis City gives up a second goal late, and you can just turn to one of any other TVs in the building and you can watch a different sports team play, or you can get them and go play darts, or you can order from the incredible menu. Just anytime, they go down 2-1 after taking a 1-0 lead. That's why watching the games at Hot Shots is the best place to do it. Of course, they got City on tap right there at hotshotsnet.com. We obviously will be covering up so much more of this game in episode 2 of Boots on the Ground, coming to you midweek here on STL Sports Central and on Friday on the Lou Information Station. Before we sign off here and kick it over to the Battlehawks Central postgame, your final minutes on a 2-1 away loss for St. Louis City SC.
My message to fans is just remember that winning away in this league is difficult. You're missing a couple key players in this match, and it was still a really solid performance. And an unfortunate, first goal that not much can be done about. And the second goal is a little bit of a defensive breakdown. But on the road in the most hostile environment in the league, having one goal that was I would deem very preventable is really not bad. And you easily could have had many more goals for you in this match. So not a bad performance, but City obviously have to be more clinical in the moments that matter, or the football will punish you, as Celio Pompeu says. And that's all I got. Positives take forward. Got to win against Galaxy next weekend at home. Oh, and Rock, by the way, I just want to personally say, when we finish up here, while you're doing the Battlehawks postgame show, I'm going to be enjoying a DQ ice cream cake. And I just wanted to let you know that. I just wanted to let you know.
Literally so jealous of that right now. It's very unfair. Honestly, it's unfair to St. Louis that will now all these St. Louis City fans are just saying, guys, my rest of my night's going to be better than your night. And that's rude is what I'm going to say. And my final thoughts as we look forward to the podcast this week, I feel very comfortable about the breakdowns for this week because my basketball background is really going to come to play because this team's biggest problem is off-ball movement, and covered enough bad basketball in my life to know what that looks like. And so that's definitely going to be one thing we're talking about, how this team's movement just dooms them late And is it connected again to a late sub of João Klaus? I'm not, obviously it's not connected to who subbed for him. This time his roommate started the game with him and had a pretty solid game. But we're going to have to talk about what happens late with St. Louis City. And you can catch all that on Boots on the Ground, our new midweek podcast here on STL Sports Central with Will Bratton and myself, Matthew Rocchio. This has been the City Central podcast. Thank you to everybody in the chat today. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell button on YouTube so you always know when we're going live, which is after every event in St. Louis sports, which includes a Battlehawks loss, unfortunately. So as we wrap up here, stay tuned to the STL Sports Central YouTube. We have Battlehawks Central postgame live from the Dome coming up on the other side. Thank you again to everybody else. Have a great day, St. Louis City fans.